Hugo Brush, a middle-aged man that had both resembled and sounded like Billy Idol in his youth, but more recently had developed a touch of the distinguished in his portage, was in a pensive mood. He was staring at a statue memorialising the capture of John Andre, the British Army handler of the American traitorous agent Benedict Arnold. The event had occurred on that exact spot in the park. He wondered, being British himself, whether Andre at any point realised he was on the wrong side of freedom and history. He walked through the well-made playground, which was surrounded by trees but otherwise eerily quiet. Abnormally quiet for a weekend, he knew. His own 2 children, ages 9 and 12 years old, followed quietly behind him, cautiously observing the placid arboreal surroundings. There were no other children playing. None, because the playground was wrapped in bright yellow caution tape. The yellow tape was everywhere, like the fear itself. The New York City episode of the coronavirus panic had just manifested itself, and the world had become an upside-down one with fear and terror found somewhere in every individual. Some had a fear of death, some had a fear of the government response. Someone at the park had deliberately ensured that there was no way to use the play equipment by both liberally applying the endless yellow ribbon and with planks installed to prevent the function of various moving parts. A nearby basketball hoop was also covered in horizontal planks, one above, one below the hoop, and fastened together to ensure it could not be used, rendering the blacktop court useless. The playground was further reinforced with a chicken wire fence around every aspect of its perimeter. Authorities had clearly intended for there to be no playing there, on the surface, as some sort of safety or disease prevention. It was not clear if this was on behalf of the town of Sleepy Hollow or Tarrytown or whatever psychotic authority that had thought this was a good idea. So, feeling some internal rage, Brush began peeling away the tape himself on a moment of inspiration. "This isn't right," he said to the children. "Absolutely not right. We'll have to fix all of this," he reassured them. They did not nod or respond, but just showed their own state of shock on their innocent, speechless young faces. Brush got into the task of dismantling the barriers. He started energetically tearing at the tape and tossing it over his shoulder behind him, leaving it in a small pile that he would deal with once the playground was back in a usable state. But he did not expect what happened next. Despite how much he had been following news and social media during this early stage of the coronavirus panic, a muscular local police officer wearing a tight-fitting surgical mask and rubber gloves rapidly and stealthily emerged from behind the statue with a hostile appearance. He was clearly quite excited, with palpable tension in his voice and manner. He was a born authoritarian, suppressing his glee as he found a golden opportunity to reprimand. "Sir, this playground is closed. Please do not touch the tape. Stand down immediately," he shouted to Brush. He repeated several similar reprimands to Brush, who remained stubbornly engaged in cautious tape shredding despite the stern warnings. "Just a minute and I'll have it all cleared up," said Brush calmly. Brush's 2 nearby children became increasingly anxious, having bothered to observe the intent of the officer, and approached their father urgently, tapping him and gently pleading with him to halt his industrious tape scraping. "Dad?" said the older son, Paul, in an attempt to cajole his dad into backing off. But he had become so engaged in pulling away the tape that he failed to heed the shocked boy. His young daughter, Sam, joined the vociferous choir of warning. He glanced briefly at the officer, but continued in his task. "Sir, I am not going to warn you again," he said. "Step away from the tape." Brush finally stopped what he was doing, and in a strong British accent, unloaded verbally on the officer. "I pay taxes in this town, and my children need a place to play. There is no danger from a virus to them here. It is ridiculous. Why don't you go apprehend some real troublemakers?